No, 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 man. No, 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 man. No, 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 no. No, 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 man. No, 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 man. No, 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 man. No, man. Or no, you know what? No.
Oh, no.
No. Oh, yeah. This is a Geek History of Time,
where we connect nerdery to the real world.
My name is Ed Blaylock. I'm a world history teacher here in Northern California. But you already know that. We've been doing this for 100 episodes now. You know who I am. You know who my partner is, but tell him anyway.
I'm Damian Harmony. I'm a Latin teacher up here in Northern California as well. And for 100 episodes, 50 of which we've done like this.
Yes.
And 50 of which we've done digitally.
There's a remarkable symmetry to that, isn't there?
Yeah. I didn't start this podcast thinking, you know what? Halfway through, we should have a plague.
Halfway through, let's figure out a kludgy way to keep doing this over Skype while we're trying to make this work. And also, while we're at it, let's find a way to cause it so it sounds like there's a weird lag in our conversation where when we're not talking over each other, there's these long, awkward pauses. Like we're trying to think real hard about what to say, which anybody who knows me knows that's not what's going on. Ed never thinks about what he has to say. But the artifice of the technology made it sound that way. Oh, and then while we're at it, let's try to make it so that the audio quality goes to shit when we're recording at about 11:45 during our recording sessions. Every goddamn time, like clockwork.
You could actually set your clock according to that. It's 11:45 PST. Every single time at night. When you hear our recording go shitty, that's what happened. I don't know whose end it's on. I don't know what happened, but for 100 episodes, we've been for 50 episodes.
50 of those episodes
we've been running into that.
Yeah, while we were doing this over a Skype connection, that's when the pause I talked about usually would start when we'd have to turn our cameras off over Skype because like anything we can do to get the bit rate up, like, oh my God, how about we cut down on the amount of data we're sending downstream?
Yep.
Like, and none of it fucking worked. Like it still sucked balls. So yeah. Very, very, very happy not to have to worry about that anymore now that we're back together in person. Good to have that tool in the kit.
Yes.
For those occasions when one of us has a sick kid or one of us is, actually contagious with something that we don't want to spread, the flu, the actual flu,
right.
Not, well, it's just the flu. No, like influenza is what I'm talking about, for circumstances like that, that's a great thing to do, but it's so nice.
It really is
to actually be in the same room recording this again.
It's weird. I forgot how much that added to it for us. And at the same time, like I said before, this pandemic has killed my imagination completely. So like when I found out that you and I were both double vaccinated, I didn't think that we could record in person. I think you'd actually brokered that idea first, and then I was like, right, that's a possibility.
Shit, we could do that now. Yes. So. And the funny thing is it was because initially I had thought that my parents were going to be in from out of town. And, the only reason that can happen is because they're both fully vaccinated.
Right.
And so I didn't want to be sitting in my living room, swearing up a storm like, we do, and have them only hear my half of the conversation as I'm going like, I'm sorry, motherfucker said what? While they're upstairs in my son's room, trying to go to sleep or trying to keep sleeping at 1:00 in the morning while we're recording. I didn't want to be doing that. And so it was like, well, are you cool if I come over and we record in person? And we're getting to this weird place. Like we're like starting to have these conversations because enough people are getting to a place where we're vaccinated that like it's a meaningful conversation about like, okay, well, we know that the guidelines are that we can do this, but like, are you going to be cool?
Right.
Because we all have low grade PTSD.
Oh yeah. Well,
from what we've been going through, if we don't have like higher grade PTSD.
I move actually that we stop calling it PTSD and start calling it DTSD.
Okay.
During
traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
But yes, you're absolutely right. Like, again, it has sucked any and all imagination. Like the new reality has been, oh, let's find a way to do this from a distance.
Yeah.
Like
for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, I'm going to be going back into my classroom on April 12th. And, we've outside of recording time, we've talked about this, but, I'm having this weird kind of ambivalence about it. 'Cause on the one hand, I know I'm going to be completely freaked out, like completely freaked out to be in a room with probably 8 or 9 kids at a time.
Right.
After, all the ones who are going to stay home, make the decision to stay home. And they cut the ones that are coming into my classroom into 2 cohorts. So, every one of my classes is basically cut in half after being cut in half.
Right.
But, so I'm going to have, tops like 10 kids in my room at a time. And I know just that number of kids in my room is going to be enough for me to be like, okay, all the windows are staying open. My door is staying wide open. I'm wearing, masks like all the time. Can I get gloves? Like what can, I'm going to be in this state, even though, I'm vaccinated and I'm at full efficacy. But I know going into it that's going to be part of my emotional state. But the other part of my emotional state is going to be like, oh my God, I get to go back to my fucking room.
Oh, I know. I'm
actually going to get to like interact with my students in person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still like methadone for a heroin addict. I'm not actually going to get to see their whole faces.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be big one for me. I didn't realize until I was actually thinking about like what teaching is going to look like in the new order. But I'm not going to be able to walk the room.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be rooted at the front of the room.
Sage on the stage.
Yeah, like 100. And I'm guilty of sage on the stage more often than like we are encouraged to be anyway.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm a performer at heart and that's my crack. But like there's no other option. When the kids are coming back into the room now, that's it, bro. And that's
all you get.
It's gonna play havoc with like the remedial reading class I'm teaching is built specifically around the idea of having rotations where the kids spend part of the time working online, part of the time reading independently, and part of the time in small group instruction. And we can't do small group anything right now. So, I mean, yeah, it's just going to be weird, but there is this weird combination of, and just like thinking about getting together with people in person, there's this elation of like, oh my God, we don't have to do this through a video connection anymore. Yeah. And there's also this little bit of like, well, yeah, but we got to be in the same room.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, we kind of have to train back up to.
Oh shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, but I'm right now, when it's, just the 2 of us in here doing this, I'm like, no, this,
let's do it.
There's a lot less ambivalence. There's a lot more like 100% positivity. Yay. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I do not disagree with the thing that you said, other than the fact that I'm not going to go back until the fall.
Yeah.
I have found any number of avenues for me to not go back, and I'm going to employ them all to ensure that I do not go back.
Yeah, redundancy is a plan.
Up to and
all
its
own.
Up to and including having saved up for this possibility.
Yeah.
So it's tremendous privilege that I have that many of my colleagues don't, which is why I'm very active in the union to try to get as close to that for them as possible.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah.
So last time we talked, back when we were in double-digit episodes, now that we've ascended
now that we've crossed the Rubicon into triple digits.
Ooh, nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we talked about Rome, essentially, but also talked about the Cardassians.
More Roman than the Romulans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the main antagonist for Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
So I want to come back to that. So I ended last episode talking about the trial of Horatius.
Yes.
Didn't ask you then. Gonna ask you now.
Yeah.
What were some of your takeaways from that whole thing?
Specifically the trial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one of the things that I mention to my students pretty regularly, teaching world history, is that they need to keep in mind that what we call the threshold of violence in day-to-day life was infinitely lower.
Yes.
In the time period that we're studying, and I'm talking to them about a time period even later than this. Now, admittedly, the change in threshold violence between the Bronze Age and the High Middle Ages is probably not as dramatic as the change from the High Middle Ages to now.
Yeah, yeah.
But still, the really shocking part of it was the frequency with which, and then he killed him. Is just a thing, and is written down by Livy as just being like, and then he died from multiple stab wounds, like, is just a thing. That leapt out at me. The extent to which what Horatius was put on trial for was shockingly violent to us, and was probably a bit of a shock to the Romans, but the fact that it wasn't shocking enough to the Romans for them to say, no, man, the law is the law.
Right.
You murdered your own sister in broad daylight.
In front of the entire
the gods and literally everybody. Just the reinforcing factor there of no, we are talking about a very different society and a very different conception of how stuff works. Number one is a big takeaway from there.
Okay.
The other thing that I found interesting was the way you put it when you talked about the pair of judges.
The duumvir.
The duumvir. That their whole job was to find him guilty.
Yes.
That wasn't the way you phrased it. There wasn't any other verdict they could give because everybody saw him do it. Like, there was no ambiguity about whether or not he had done it, but their whole job was to find, like, their role. It wasn't even so much about the fact that no, we all saw him do it again in broad daylight, shouting about it while he did it. Like, but that finding him guilty was their job.
Yeah.
Like, the whole reason you get a duumvir is to, as the source said, to pass judgment.
Yes.
That what's interesting about that from a legalistic standpoint is that it's not a trial. No. It's a pronouncement. And there is a whole set of assumptions going into how justice works, going into what the role of the state is in injustice. You know, we have this concept in our legal system. The ideal that we put forward is that in the legal system, you know, there needs to be an inquiry into, is this person guilty? Is this person not? There has to be proof. You know, the whole system is built around the idea that there is a back and forth.
And a burden of proof.
And a burden of proof, which is a whole other later. That's such a modern concept. I don't even want to get into that when we're talking about the Romans. But yes, but that here we're not even getting to who has the burden of proof. It's nobody has a burden of proof. You're fucking guilty.
Yeah, you did it.
Like, period. Yeah. Like, no, we have you. And I'm thinking about it like, and the way this is phrased, this wasn't just like, okay, well, I'm going to create this thing called a duumvir for this case in front of everybody to, you know, give me cover for Hostilius to go like, okay, no, I need somebody else to like do this.
Right.
Which he did. But the duumvir was an already extant institution that he made use of. As opposed to just pulling it out of his ass. Like, well, I'm going to take these two judges and you're going to find him guilty for me. No, this was already a thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, okay, no, if you get caught, or rather, if you get hauled before the duumvir, whether you did it or not, you're guilty.
Yep.
The fact that we have brought you here means somebody has to pay for it, and we have decided you're going to be the one to do it.
I'm really glad that you picked up on all
of
that.
And that is the role of the state in justice, which makes it performative.
Yes.
Which I mean, there's all kinds of debates we can have. I mean, meaningfully that we can have about, you know, our own court system and how actually representative it actually is.
I was going to ask, did you want to just fast forward to 1934 in Germany?
Or the Soviet Union.
Yeah. You know.
Or China. A great leap forward. Yeah. No, you know, it's no coincidence that these kinds of models are the ones that Il Duce used when he came up with the system of fascism.
Yes.
You know, like
he was building another Roman Empire.
Yeah, that sounds awfully fashy. Well, yes, because Mussolini was the dude. So, yeah. So yeah,
you know, it's interesting that you brought up. I'm gonna capitalize a little bit on the performative part, and then gonna unfold the rest of this, which is you played perfectly into it. Well done.
Okay.
But what I want to just pull apart a little bit more granularly there is the part about it being performative.
Yeah.
Most analyses of Roman religion was that it was not revealed but contractual. That the reason that we worship the gods is because that's the contract that we have with them to keep things going. And if we do our part, they're bound by that same contract to do their part. Now, they might not do it very well. Sometimes they might be wrathful if we forget our part. But if we do our part, they'll do their part. And therefore, Roman religion itself, by its very nature, was also state religion.
Yeah.
You know, the college of the priests and stuff like that was performative. If we perform these rites, these things happen.
Performative,
yep.
As the paralegal in the room, performative in a contractual sense.
Yes.
Performance of the contract.
Yes.
Not I'm going to get up on stage and give you an interpretive dance.
No, they literally had priests that did that.
Well, yeah, I understand, but
the leaping they were called the dancing priests of Mars.
Okay, back up. Stop though. Yep. Wait. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
I was totally right there with you. Yeah. Right there with you. Dancing priests.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, dance is the thing. Dancing priests of Mars.
Yes.
The dancing priests of the god of war.
I always just picture they would dance through the streets.
Yeah.
During certain festival days.
Yeah.
And
in armor?
Not particularly. No. Sometimes, but not always. But I always pictured it as just being like, you remember the ending of Soul Train, where they'd form two lines and people would dance down.
Yeah.
That's what I have pictured.
Okay.
In my mind,
and you might not be wrong.
Yeah.
But how did that and I mean, I understand that my own concepts of masculinity and warriorness play into this.
Sure.
But to the Roman mindset, which, by the way, like, I don't think we can overstate how, like, incredibly goddamn macho Roman ideas of masculinity were. Like to us, massively toxic.
There's a little bit to it here.
Okay.
First off, they were called the Salii. These are dancing priests. Salire is to leap.
Okay.
But it's also to dance.
Okay.
They did dress up as archaic warriors. They did. Including, like, I believe a spiked headdress. Okay. They called that the apex. Apex. They also had, I want to say like a deep red tunic. Okay. And the thing is, this group of the dancing / leaping priests of Mars, were, they, how to put this? They had, a bunch of, like, bronze shields. Okay. They had a lot of these things, and the king that came up with this was none other than Numa Pompilius.
Okay.
He's the one that came up with the College of the Priests, right? Yeah. He came up with the war priests, dancing priests. Okay. And he had his wife, I think, the goddess that he slept with, right? Egeria. Yes. He had her. I believe he either had her engraved on the shield or because various accounts are vague. Yeah. He either had her engraved on the 12 shields. Ways. Yeah. Or she had inspired him to make the 12 shields. I forget which. Right. But either way, the dancing priests of Rome. Okay. Yeah, of Mars.
Of Mars, yes.
So very performative.
Yes. On every level.
Every level.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Huh.
Yeah. They did that.
Were weird. All right.
Yeah. So now back to the other thing that you brought up was just which absolutely perfectly plays into episode B of Cardassian Jurisprudence and the trial of Horatius. So we had the trial of Horatius.
Yes.
Now let's go to the Cardassian Jurisprudence. In every single episode where the Cardassian courts are brought up, which in itself is an odd thing to develop, but it was the mid to late 90s, and we did spend an entire year watching the OJ trial. So
yeah,
and the Menendez brothers.
Yeah.
Okay. So trials being a public thing
was huge.
It was a big deal to us. So
court TV got started in the really took off in the wake of that.
Yeah.
On a personal note, I have an aunt who actually wound up on court TV.
Oh wow!
Not in a good way. For a deeply regrettable situation that turned into her facing criminal charges for something that we in the family are, of course, convinced she was not responsible for. But it was very interesting to have the experience of seeing that what would normally be like we in the family know about what's going on,
right?
And we have these details about it, but then seeing that plastered on a national kind of media thing,
sure,
was really surreal.
I bet.
And when you talk about courts being performative, the moment we as a society introduced cameras and the media into the trial environment, I genuinely think that trials that wound up being broadcast like that and
Mm-hmm.
covered like that, and the OJ trial being one of them, and the Menendez brothers trial being another one. The process itself was impacted by the fact that there was suddenly this audience.
Sure.
And yeah. So anyway,
okay.
But that was in because of those things.
Sure.
That was now a new thing. I mean, now we're used to this being part of our parlance and our media landscape. But
Mm-hmm.
but when it was new like that, you know, the seeing that show up in the Zeitgeist shouldn't in retrospect shouldn't be surprising.
Yeah. I would say though that, you know, you had radios showing up in trials as far back as the 30s. Now they would report after the fact.
Yeah.
But even that in itself changed the trial situation, because you're not just playing to 12 now.
No.
You know, and you're not just playing to the people who literally live down the street from you.
Yeah.
You're playing to strangers. Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah. I don't necessarily know that that's bad or good. I know that that is a shift.
Yeah.
But in every episode where the Cardassian courts are brought up,
yes,
the verdict is rendered prior to the trial.
Okay.
The trial, therefore, is an opportunity for the state to show the people that justice triumphs over evil every time. Specifically, that quote was used. The state is benevolent and wise and just, and its traitors will be dealt with harshly and swiftly.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
There we go.
Specifically, Season 2, Episode 25 of Deep Space Nine, Chief O'Brien is put on trial for sabotage. The arresting officer, Gul Evek, informs O'Brien that, quote, "You have the right to refuse to answer questions, but such refusal may be construed as a sign of guilt." Evek informs him, to which Miles demands to know what crimes, to know what the charges are. Evek asks Miles if he would like to deny all knowledge of the crime. When Miles again asks what the crime is, Evek interprets his response as a no. At no time is O'Brien ever informed of his charges. The charges against Chief O'Brien are to be revealed at the trial as per Cardassian jurisprudence. Now, under the articles of Cardassian jurisprudence, an officer would caution the individual being arrested that, quote, "You have the right to refuse to answer questions, but such refusal may be construed as a sign of guilt." So it's their version of Miranda. The document also allowed the arrest of a suspect without informing him of the crime he was accused of. It also provided for spouses of the accused to disassociate themselves from the accused by testifying against them.
Okay, which ties in with what we've already heard about Cardassians and loyalty and all of that.
State above all,
yeah,
even though family is all.
Yeah.
Cardassian trials were for show, as the verdict and sentence had already been determined in advance, and there was no appeals process. So far, Miles O'Brien is actually getting full due process under Cardassian law. The point,
in a fascist state.
Yes.
I mean, you know.
Yes.
Like,
but they're following...
Couldn't be any more overt than, yeah.
They're following procedure.
Whoa. Yeah.
The point of a Cardassian...
We were only following orders.
The point of a Cardassian trial isn't to reach the verdict. The verdict has already been reached. The trial is to demonstrate how it was reached.
Showing your work.
Yeah.
Wow.
O'Brien has already been scheduled for execution the following week. He is assigned a conservator, which is a type of lawyer cum advisor named Kovat. His conservator is there simply to help the accused to concede to the wisdom of the state.
Wow.
The conservator asks O'Brien if he wants to confess, and so far O'Brien still doesn't know what he's on trial for. But it's not for O'Brien to confess. It is for the public's faith in the state for him to confess. Hearing the guilty confess makes the public feel better, and while such is not the primary purpose of the trial, the conservator points out that it is not a bad side effect. So whatever O'Brien may or may not have done, the conservator reassures him that it does not matter in the long run. quote, "The purpose of this trial is to demonstrate the futility of behavior contrary to good order." He says, and he calls the entire process uplifting for everyone.
Does that include the one being disintegrated a week from now?
Well, there's that. Kovat enthusiastically describes how all crimes are solved on Cardassia, and even the poorest of the poor can walk the streets in the dead of night safely.
Yeah. Well, the poorest of the poor don't have anything to get robbed for.
There's also that.
You know, I was gonna say, wow.
Yeah.
That's, and this guy Kovat's a true believer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
His whole career is based on this.
Jesus.
He's essentially, you got to keep in mind, he is their version of a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
For the defense. He's never won. He's not supposed to.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the system works.
Right. Right.
Because, like, nobody gets arrested who didn't do it.
Right.
Like, I mean, come on.
O'Brien informs Kovat that he is not guilty, and he holds the entire process in contempt, an attitude that Kovat claims will put on a good show. But before Kovat leaves, O'Brien asks if he's ever won a case, and he says, well, winning isn't everything, and he walks away.
as the Jesus meter hits 9,000.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
When the execution is to take place, the Cardassians have invited O'Brien's wife Keiko to it, as families are always invited to trials and executions, so the public can see them weep.
The fuck?
Now, what I love there is, and I might have gone into it a little bit earlier or a little bit later here as well, but I want to bring it up here. Roman trials, if you're a defendant in a Roman trial, I don't care how rich you are, you show up in rags with your hair fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you show up pretending to have been agonizing over this thing, no matter how innocent or guilty you are, no matter how rich or poor you are, you show up like that. It's very performative.
Yeah.
And it brings me back to the Menendez brothers. Remember how they dressed them up in those nice sweaters and softened their image?
Made them all look, And then you look at their eyes and you're like, no.
Yeah, and then you realize that, one woman married one of them while he was in prison, having been found guilty. And it's like...
Monkeys be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my fellow primates are not okay.
So the whole trial is there for show, and when new evidence comes to light, it's not allowed. No evidence may be submitted after the verdict has been reached. And since the verdict was reached ahead of the trial...
Woof.
So...
You're fucked.
Yeah.
I've arrested you. Kiss your family goodbye.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Now, here's how the trial begins. Quote, "The offender, Miles O'Brien, human, officer of the Federation Starfleet, has been found guilty of aiding and abetting seditious acts against the state. The sentence is death. Let the trial begin." End quote.
Which is, taken from... we have these guys, and they're gonna pronounce judgment.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about finding whether you're guilty or not. You are.
This is about justice.
Yeah,
triumphing over evil.
Wow.
Cardassians are space Romans, and their jurisprudence is clearly lifted from the trial of Horatius's duumvir structure.
Yeah.
Cardassians are defined by their militarism, their inherent suspicion of outsiders, and their penchant for duplicitousness and strategic maneuvering. Indeed, for Cardassia, the only instrument that can ensure order and security is a strong nation-state bound by common purpose, force of arms, and an unwavering sense of right and wrong that can ward off its enemies, both internal and external. This is fully shown during Hostilius's reign. And when Livy set out to write the whole of the history of Rome, in which the trial of Horatius can be found best, it was partly to act as a moral guide to Romans. Livy's prologue states, quote, "It is the privilege of antiquity to mingle divine things with human, and so to add dignity to the beginnings of cities. And if any people ought to be allowed to consecrate their origins and refer them to a divine source. And so great is the military glory of the Roman people that when they professed that their father and their father of their father of their founder was none other than Mars, the nations of the earth may well submit to this also, with as good as grace as they may submit to Rome's dominion. But to such legends as these, however they shall be regarded and judged, I shall, for my own part, attach no great importance. Here are the questions to which I would have every reader give his close attention. What life and morals were like, through what men and by what policies, in peace and war, empire was established and enlarged, and let him note how, with the gradual relaxation of discipline, morals first gave way, as it were, and then sank lower and lower, and finally began to downward plunge, which has brought us to the present time, when we can endure neither our vices nor their cures. What chiefly makes the study of history wholesome and profitable is this, that you behold the lessons of every kind of experience set forth on a conscious monument, or on a conspicuous monument. From these you may choose for yourself, and for your own state, what to imitate. From these, mark for avoidance what is shameful in the conception and shameful in the result. For the rest, either love of the task that I have set myself deceives me, or no state was ever greater. None more righteous or richer in good examples, none ever where avarice and luxury came into the social order so late, which I love the inevitability of that, or where humble means and thrift were so highly esteemed and so long held in honor. For true it is that the less men's wealth was, the less their greed. Of late, riches have brought in avarice and excessive pleasures, the longing to carry wantonness and license to the point of ruin for oneself and of universal destruction. So as you can see, the state is the highest good. It is the thing that keeps them from degenerating, like you said, into the wolves of the fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, just like the Romans, Cardassians were driven by conquest. The show's treatment of the Bajorans originally starts out as a very non-nuanced and clumsy allegory for the Jews under Rome, but then it quickly becomes the Palestinians under Israel in the 80s and in the 90s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which is an interesting shift. What I find interesting in the quote from Livy there is, that's a theme from chroniclers and historians that starts with him, and he's kind of the father of the discipline of history in many ways. But we see the same thing in chronicles from millennia later.
Yes.
There's always this, look at how badly our society has fallen.
Yep.
Look at the degeneracy of our current state.
Right.
Like, in Saxon England, before the Norman conquest, but I don't remember whether it was before or after the great heathen army, before the Vikings showed up. Writers talked about the chroniclers of the time lamented how effeminate the men and the young men of the court of the Saxon kingdoms was that they were they wore rouge and makeup and all this stuff, and they wore their hair long, and they're just not virile anymore, and it's the same. Look at the dissipation of our culture. And then on a more, I don't know if fatalistic is the right word, but, and I'm forgetting the name of the scroll, but it's one of the famous stories of samurai history, opens with this beautiful, haunting kind of poem about how, the bells at the temple of the Honganji, and I'm trying to remember, that's not the name of the temple, I can't remember off the top of my head, reminds one of the impermanence of all things. We live in the fallen world, where enlightenment, where we cannot reach enlightenment within our own lifetimes. There's always this idea that the world we're living in right now, until very, very modernly, there was always in any kind of historical chronicle, there was always this idea that everybody back then knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And it was so much better back then. And they were just so much more moral back then. And now
that especially that moral part.
Yeah. And now we're living in this age of, dissolution and decay. And it's interesting that, of course, we still have those voices saying the same thing about our society right now compared to, the 50s. But that is no longer the dominant ideal of historians.
Right.
Historians look at it and you're like, we have antibiotics and vaccines and water treatment and like the ability to access the accumulated knowledge of literally all of human history. We have it so good, guys. Come on.
This is better.
It's just, it strikes me as you read Livy lamenting about, we did such a good job
in the good old
days. And we as Romans are superior because we held out against the licentiousness and the greed for so long.
Yes.
But as you say, the inevitability of it is just a given to him. And and then holding up as an example of morality, the duumvir, which, I can't say this fascist model, because fascism doesn't get invented for another 2,000 plus years.
Yes.
From the time Livy was writing, but to a modern 21st century reader, you hear about Horatius's trial and about Hostilius saying, all right, I need to find a way to make this work so I can pardon him, but still uphold the law. How fascist the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And of course, the reason is because that's the model, as we already said, that's the model Mussolini was working from.
Exactly.
But that's the moral example you want to give?
Yeah.
To a modern sensibility. And again, this goes back to think about threshold of violence. To a modern sensibility, that's just nut bar.
It is, but
it's lunatic. But we're not talking about a modern sensibility. We're talking about the Bronze Age.
Well, and Livy, he said other things in his preface too. It's the hardest thing that he writes for translation purposes.
Okay.
I
could believe
the
that.
preface
just
is
for the phraseology you were using
God.
that you were reading.
I hated translating his preface. I love translating every book thereafter from him.
Okay.
But he also says that he does the fake humility thing. But he also in his preface he says that he hopes that we will draw our moral lessons from those people, and that that was a time in which
men were men and sheep were scared.
Well, that too, but where what was it? It was a time where. Oh man, you threw me off there.
Sorry,
it's okay. It's all right.
No, I'm really not.
The
joke needed to be made.
Sure, and I can't wait for a funny one. But
Okay.
Yeah. But on the 200th episode, that's
there
what
you
I'm
go.
really,
all right. Okay.
really looking forward to laughing at your joke. Yeah. So he's saying that it was a time when I'm getting flipped off.
Yeah,
I do miss being in person.
Now that we're in the same room.
But no, he said, there was a time where people lived closer to the earth. They lived closer to their morality, and then. I'm sorry, as a modern listener, Livy, who was writing this, which century? Same time as Augustus.
Okay,
so 700 years after the shit that we're talking about.
Okay, so near year 1 AD. Hearing him in that time period talk about, people used to live closer to the Earth. Like, do you, like, how far from the Earth are you?
He had stairs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like,
that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it just...
There were buildings that had stories to them.
Okay.
It wasn't just earthen ramps up to a temple at the top of a hill.
All right. Wow. All right.
But he also said that it was our luxury and our wealth that ruined Rome's morality.
Yeah.
And with wealth comes rot, essentially. And what I love about
is the
that,
root of all evil.
right? What I love about that, though, is that he is saying what so many regressives say now.
Oh yeah.
But what we're not hearing it from is historians anymore who are worth their salt, because specifically, I think, of the GI Bill.
Okay.
Because once black and brown faces got to go to college too and study in academia and become historians, they started bringing other stories, and history shifted from what lessons can we learn from the past in terms of aspirational to what lessons can we learn from the past in terms of
fixing shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. Now, back to the Cardassians.
Yeah.
They were driven by conquest just like the Romans were, right? Yeah. And like I said, the show had them as having just given up the concentration camps of Bajorans.
Yeah.
Like that's like episode 1 and 2 of season 1.
Yeah.
And
that was really heavy.
It was.
I like, as an introduction to a brand new Star Trek series, you're like,
yeah,
wow, okay.
Yeah, I liked it.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was.
Yeah, once they
was a
found
very
their
bold
feet,
departure. Yeah.
once it was about season 2,
well,
midway
they
through
found the
season
beard.
2, yeah, they found
in Star Trek terminology.
Yeah. But they were a clumsy allegory, like I said, for the Jews under Rome, but then they became the Palestinians under Israel during the 80s and 90s. Will Nguyen, a Trek enthusiast, a fellow podcaster, and the author of the 2015 article, A Mirror for Humanity, Why the Cardassians Are Trek's Best Alien Race, he pointed out that producers Michael Piller and Rick Berman at the time had said, quote, "The Bajorans are the PLO, but they're also the Kurds, the Jews, and the American Indians. They are any racially bound group of people who have been deprived of their home by a powerful force."
Okay.
So your producers are saying that. Your creators are saying that.
Yeah.
In the mid-90s, Israel was in a transition in its struggle with how to address the issue of apartheid in its own state.
Yeah.
Yitzhak Rabin was of a more peaceful bend than was his predecessor, Perez. And as such, the Bajorans were more of an amalgam of several groups, per what the producers had said. The Cardassians, simply and broadly, are the more realistic version of what the Romans were.
Okay.
Casting the Bajorans in the role of the Jews, whom they conquered during the Empire. That our own culture lionizes and whitewashes the Roman Empire is pretty telling. And Will Nguyen says, quote, "As we ourselves have witnessed, the appeal of patriotism, self-pride, the rule of law, the security of order, and the desire for collective good are all powerful and beneficial motivators. But they can also be corrupted, manipulated, and exploited to justify unspeakable acts in the name of ensuring and preserving those very same things."
Yes. Okay.
Now, some people look to sci-fi for their lessons, right? As many can look to the Cardassians to see ourselves from the past 4 years. Frankly, more than that.
Yeah.
Because Nguyen was writing that in 2015. That was under Obama.
Yeah.
And under Obama, one of the reasons that the Trump administration was able to get away with rhetorically so much of its fuckery was because they said, well, Obama did it.
Yeah.
And they were not wrong.
Yeah.
And now, current president, Joe Biden, is doing it. And they're not wrong.
Yeah.
And he's changing the words to things, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I have also seen a lot of movement toward shifting things, and I'm hopeful that that is a way of processing our way out of this.
Yeah.
With all due haste, please, though. But in the last 4 years, the people who cheered it on.
Yeah.
Because I don't recall Obama supporters cheering on kids in cages.
No.
Cheering on mass deportations.
No.
I recall Obama supporters wincing and still finding mental gymnastics.
Yeah, finding ways to deflect, ignore, try to weasel word. Well, you know, what are you gonna do?
Right.
Like it was something that was. It wasn't anything Obama supporters liked, but it was something that
they did accept.
They accepted.
Yeah.
Whereas the real hardcore base of Trump's support wanted that shit.
Yeah.
Like that was the point.
Yes.
Hurting people was the point.
Yeah. He's not hurting who he's supposed to.
He's not hurting the people. Yeah. He's not hurting the right people.
Now, I think in some ways that's a distinction without a difference.
No, yes. Yeah. But I think it goes to the core, some of the core differences in ideology. I mean the impact is not different, but the vector that of where that can lead and how fast,
and whether or not you can come back from it, and in what way you can. Yeah. So those people who cheered it on made a hell of a deal with the devil to assuage their bruised egos as a culture. Yeah. This will be its own episode at some point about how the Cardassians treat the Bajorans. I couldn't talk about them without talking about that. That would be weird. But largely I was just looking at this one small thing of jurisprudence because it was so clearly an echo. Now some people look to sci-fi for their lessons. Others look to history for their lessons. The state as the ultimate goal leads to its own injustices, as we saw under Tullus Hostilius' reign. The excusal of personal injustice because the people demand it. Yeah. As seen in the trial of Horatius, and the continuation of traditions that are ultimately harmful to large swaths of our society, like we just said. Yeah. But I think that I found a sweet spot here, because when sci-fi looks to history to teach us history's lessons, that's when you've caught lightning in a bottle. Okay. Unfortunately, Miles O'Brien has to suffer through all of it. Yeah. Because that is kind of the point of the producers, was every season was, how can I torture Miles O'Brien?
how can we screw over Miles O'Brien? He really was kind of the butt monkey.
Yeah, no, every season was, we're going to try to drive Miles O'Brien crazy for an episode. Yeah. That was a goal. Yeah. So, and in this case, it was the trial of Tullus Hostilius. Yeah. It was the trial under Tullus Hostilius of Horatius. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. That is it.
Wow.
Yeah. Episode 100 in the can.
There we go.
Look at that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Got that done.
So, per our tradition,
yes,
100 episodes long.
Yeah.
Ed, what have you gleaned?
That when you establish a standard, or establish a tradition, or establish a system, you better really make sure you've established it based on the right things, because you never know how far forward in history that's going to wind up going. On a very prosaic level, there's a meme that goes around every so often that's about, the width of a standard road in the United States is based on the width of a railroad track. The width of a railroad track is based on the length of a wagon axle, which is based on, Roman roads, which were based on the width of two horses' asses, because that's what pulled a chariot.
Yes.
And So, keep in mind when you establish a standard for something, and it usually goes around amongst, programmers and tech people. It's like when you establish a standard for something, know how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
I think it's equally applicable to, when you are setting a precedent for how you want to have something work when in a society. You need to be really careful about that because it establishes the tone and the language and the whole outlook.
Yep.
Because people are going to make assumptions a century from now based on, well, this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And it's going to wind up getting absorbed into the wallpaper until some historian 500 years from now goes, hey, wait a minute.
Right.
Let's really look at this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to wind up in a situation where somebody's going to go, I'm sorry, that's fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just doing with the whole system of, well, okay, no, our whole job is to pass judgment on you because you're here, so you're guilty.
Right. And so many things get built off of that.
Oh yeah.
That
yeah.
The assumptions
there had to be a whole philosophical movement to move away from that to get us where we are now, because that was basically the way royal justice worked under any number of kings for forever.
Yep.
The counterpoint to that was the Germanic tradition of no, we're going to hold you in front of a group of your peers, and you're going to tell your story, and they're going to decide whether they think you did it or not.
Right.
Because that's a tribal, barbarian German system as opposed to the Roman. No, we need to have this authoritative state. It's more communal as opposed to top down.
Yep.
And that's the counterforce. Was another group of, incredibly violent, people with
people
their
scared the Romans
with their own set of, by the way, this is a really low threshold of violence kind of rules and traditions involved. Like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, eventually with the Germans, you had the Wehrgeld.
Yeah. Because you're going to pay money instead of killing them.
Right.
So pay up. Yeah. Or you're going to pay money instead of getting killed.
Yeah. That way we don't have a blood feud lasting generations.
Literally generations, which, didn't stop the Scots from bringing that tradition over to the United States.
No.
Hatfields and McCoys. Or anything like that at all. So, yeah. But,
okay.
Yeah, no. It's seeing the depth of the echo.
Ooh, I like that.
Is illuminating.
Yeah.
In a really big way. Yeah. And just the absurdity of, well, no, you're here because you're guilty. Like,
you really did loop onto that.
What kind of Dadaist, like,
it's Kafka-esque.
Kafka, yeah. I went to Dada, but I meant Kafka.
Yeah.
I mean, either one can apply. It's just surrealism, but yeah, Kafka-esque kind of. Wait. Like I picture that whole, like, I don't remember that episode of the show, but I picture it all being filmed with like a camera angle from way down low, staring up at, everybody, or weird oblique angles from the corner of the room. And,
now that I think about
harsh lighting angles. And just like playing up you're in the Twilight Zone. You think you're watching Star Trek, but you're in the Twilight Zone right now.
Yeah, it is. And O'Brien's hair is increasingly crazy.
Well,
I mean, it's already a curly mane.
It's already,
But they picked out his fro, as it were, a bit, so that he seemed a little extra harried.
Well,
so we, the guy we're sympathizing with is
falling apart.
Yeah.
Because every season we have to drive O'Brien crazy. Yeah,
absolutely.
Very cool.
Well, cool. So that's first off, thank you for hanging with that. That is as niche as I've gotten.
Yeah,
I think. Because even when I discussed Uber Roy, it was in the context of The Far Side, which everybody's fucking read.
Yeah.
But
everybody our age.
Yeah, true.
Has read. But yeah.
But I don't know, man. We've done 100 episodes of this.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It kind of is.
So
kind of is.
Anything you've gleaned after 100 episodes of
after
doing
100
this?
episodes of doing this?
Yeah.
Wow. In the aggregate, I think the biggest thing that I have gotten out of what we have done is that everything that we view or listen to or produce or read, the stories that we tell in the media that we create, especially, I'm going to say especially in genre, whether that genre is wrestling or that genre is science fiction or fantasy or whatever, all are operating within a cycle with the Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
They come out of the Zeitgeist and then they feed into it and steer it one way or another, and then spin back out of it in a cycle. And I mean, anybody who has, done media studies or done, sociology or anything like that would hear me say that and be like, well, yeah, Ed. But the illustration of that over the course of the last 100 episodes, and when we've gone into, deep dives, like, on fucking Batman for 10 fucking episodes. By the way, folks, if you're hoping for us to do any kind of detail about Batman, you're going to be waiting a while, because like we spent a long time on it. I mean, inevitably we're probably going to have to come back to something, but it's not yet. But seeing that idea reinforced kind of over and over and over again, and when we've looked at something in depth, having that become as obvious as it has become, and the kinds of things, talking about bafa and cultural assumptions, sure, suddenly realizing that, okay, wait, this whole thing is built around this particular cultural assumption. This is something that, the writers weren't even actually really consciously trying to point out, but now that we look at it, it's like, how do you not see that? Yeah, I think that's the most powerful thing is the understanding that we are the masters of the Zeitgeist in aggregate, and we are also kind of its slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? What is your
takeaway over the last 100 episodes?
100 episodes of doing this.
Let's see. I guess the first thing would be how presentist both of us are. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Despite the fact that we're historians. Yeah. That would be one. Another would be, I guess I learned more about us in some ways than I did about the topics. Okay. The That's topics fair. were a fun vehicle to do this through. But you and I obviously have gotten to be much closer as friends through this, and that's been cool. Yeah. I've actually surprised myself that I'm able to figure out technological stuff. Like, grant you, it took me 45 minutes tonight, but but you got it done. I did. You know, instead of saying, okay, call me from downstairs on your phone. But no, we figured out how to get two mics operating together. Who knows? Maybe all over again. We reinvented that wheel after producer George figured it out, forever ago. Years ago, yeah. But just the amount of fun that a lot of research is. Here's the thing that I used to say, and I think we've proven, the any clown can teach the deepest lesson. Okay. Any subject that we have looked at can absolutely be a mirror for our society and for ourselves. And I really like that.
Yeah. And I think the corollary I'd add to that is, the act of viewing it in the mirror affects both you for having viewed it and the image that you get out of the mirror. The very fact that you are taking the time to examine it and pull it apart alters or affects the image that you get out of it.
Yeah.
You know. And yeah, the part about us both being more presentist than we thought is definitely a thing. And you know, the extent to which I have, over the course of us doing this, examined my own baggage is, I think, I mean, looking back over it, this has been a process of me in a couple of notable examples actually having to wrestle with my own preconceived notions. Like the episode about orcs, which you have come back to several times in conversation about, like, that, you know, you really think that was a great ep. And I'm very glad of that. But you know, for me, that came from a place. I mean, that actually started out from a place where my reaction was like, okay, wait, they're orcs. Like, why are we having this conversation about, like, why do we have to have orcs or people too? They're fucking orcs.
Right.
And then, you know, taking the time to look at it and think about it, I'm like, okay, I kind of see why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's some problematic shit going on there.
Yeah.
Well, damn it, you know, and finally coming around to being like, no.
Right.
The whole idea of a whole species of humanoids being just like inherently evil is not cool. Like we gotta talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the implications of that are big enough that maybe we ought to have a conversation. You know, and I'll admit, you know, there was some reluctance to admitting that. Like it was actually like, well, shit, it's the right thing to do, but God damn it, you know, you know, because that was in a Buddhist sense that was having to let go of the ego involved in it. Like this is a thing that is part of these pet memories of mine, you know, that I've got to move on from. And, you know, I think it's been beneficial for me. I think it's made me a better teacher, outside of doing this podcast, because, it has taken my sense of intellectual honesty. And from there it has turned into forcing me to apply that to working to be more empathetic, as an instructor, and let's really look at the implications of not only what's in the curriculum, but like, how are we going to approach it and how are we going to teach it? And I mean, I tried to do that before, but looking at these issues the way we have looked at them has broadened my view of all of these things, and has pushed me to be more direct when I'm you know, talking with the kids about, you know, issues in history, like you know, a conversation I wound up having with a friend of the show, Bishop O'Connell, the other day. We're recording this a couple of days after St. Patrick's Day for reference. And a conversation I wound up having with him drove me to actually change my lesson plan for the day in a way that I don't think I would have felt like it was safe for me to change it to before you and I had started doing what we've done here.
Right.
I wound up, talking about diaspora, and talking about the Irish experience, with the potato famine and then coming to America, and then said, this is one of, 3 principal diaspora in American history. And the other 2 are the Jewish diaspora, which actually dates back to Babylon.
Right.
And which, it isn't what I want to talk about today, but it's important for you to know that. And then the other one is the African diaspora. And the big difference between them is the Irish came here out of a set of circumstances that were tragic, but somebody involved made a choice.
Yes.
That either they were going to come over because they were young and strong and capable of it, or they were going to send their kid because they wanted their kid to get away. There was a choice made. And in the African diaspora, they were not allowed to make a choice. They came over literally in chains. That was the way I said it to the kids. They came over literally in chains. They were not given a choice. And then when they got here, we don't have an African-American version of St. Patrick's Day because their culture was stolen from them when they got here. And they were not allowed to hold on to that. And 2 years ago, I would not have been radicalized to the point of where I would have been comfortable being that blunt about it.
Sure.
But no, the things that we've talked about here and the lessons that we've taken out of our geeky culture and the analysis that we've done has made me a lot more comfortable actually just being blunt about it.
Nice.
And so I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. I think first off, it's just been fun to research all these things, but I also think that it's been largely instructive of a kind of a zoom in and then zoom back out kind of approach to looking at things, and the interconnectedness of the times in which the things happen, and I've spoken to this on the podcast a couple times, the tremendous amount of non-inevitability that history has in it.
Oh yeah.
But also the tremendous amount of course, like we talked about just tonight, within the first sentence, I because I read off of some research that I got, right? Yeah. After the first sentence, I was like, well, of course there were several episodes dealing with Cardassian jurisprudence. Look at what else was happening in the 90s regarding TV court stuff. Yeah. And we had, 4 or 5 minutes on that. And just the looking at a culture from that aspect constantly. What's happening at that time. Yeah. Sometimes I'll go back, 80 years to get to it. And sometimes, I'll just, speak within it. But I think that goes all the way back to our very first episode on the CCE.
Oh. Yeah, no, easily.
CCA rather. Yeah. I think when I start teaching history more, the more I can pull into that, the better. But yeah, I think that's enough for me for now. Yeah. So, all right. Well, after 100 episodes, where can people find you?
They can find me at EH Blaylock on the Twitter machine. They can find me at Mr. Blaylock on TikTok, EH Blaylock on Instagram, and Mr. Blaylock on Instagram. 2 separate accounts. Look for both of them. One of them, my students are able to view, and the other one they're not. There's not a whole lot of difference right now, but one of them actually has photos of my son, and the other does not. I'll leave it to you which one my students can view. I'll leave it to you to guess. And they can find both of us collectively at Geek History Time on Twitter. And where can they find you?
You can find me at Harmony, 2 H's in the middle, on Twitter and the Instagram. If you have any questions or comments or subjects that you want us to kind of look at, feel free. Had a lovely conversation with a follower, a watcher or a listener of our podcast.
I was going to say,
a watcher.
You got a camera in here? Wait.
No, we have to turn those off. So at 11:45.
Yeah, because weird.
But had a lovely conversation about that, about the implicit bias that we both have viewing things through an American lens when it came to
this is true.
The edition wars. But you can find me there, as some have, Harmony on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me every Tuesday night at Capital Punishment on twitch.tv/Capital Puns. And you can also find me, let's see what else. Oh yes, I've started a podcast, which hasn't started dropping yet, but podcast and video show on Excelsior Gaming. It's the one that has the Stitcher from Marvel Strike Force on it. So that's the one. So myself and Ian McDonald, who can be found at iMac Puns, we work together to discuss gaming stuff. So kind of fun. I get to bring my geekiness, and he gets to bring his ability to play a resource-based game to the fore. So cool. Well, after 100 episodes, for a Geek History of Time, I'm Damian Harmony.
And I'm Ed Blaylock. And until next time, keep rolling 20s.